Anyway, that's it. That's it for me. It's time to hand over the reins. It's time for the biggest moment of the show. This is Jack's moment to shine. It was a part of the agreement for him to sit in that chair today that he would get his story in there. He owns the wild card today. Take it away, Jack.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since I'm such a saving the earth kind of guy, and the environment is so important to me, and I'm willing to take half-hour extra long trips. Anyway, this kind of came from watching the Seaspiracy documentary. I'm sure you guys heard about it. It was popular for a while there, and it was very devastating to watch. And regardless of how much they, every documentary has a bias, but it was a very kind of, the reality was quite tragic. So this kind of led me down this path of kind of looking at these kind of things that were going on to kind of help swing that a little bit. And, the oceans are really becoming a desolate place. And on top of that, they're also becoming these just garbage wastelands. So I just figured I'd pick an article that kind of has a tech side of it. And so anyway, Microsoft teamed up with this company. What's this company called again? Ocean
Cleanup?
Yeah, the Ocean Cleanup. To kind of be able to automatically, understand what they're taking out of the water. So before, it was a human process where they would have to actually look at pictures of all this stuff that they were dragging out of the water and categorize it, because they can't just take it out and put it into a landfill on land. They have to actually put it somewhere to make it all worthwhile. So Microsoft teamed up with them to kind of automatically do that, and they can kind of see what they're taking out. They can make sure that they put back things that are meant to be in the ocean and take out things that aren't, and then categorize it from there. But they're also doing it in a way where they're doing it from these the mouth of these rivers that lead into the ocean. So before it even gets into the ocean, they're kind of intercepting it. And
so I was just as you were saying that, I was just looking at the article there. It looks like they have an actual physical device.
Yes,
an autonomous catcher that's moving about on his own in search of deadly plastics.
Yeah. It kind of sits there and it filters things through it, and it picks up things that aren't supposed to be there. And it's picking up tons and tons of stuff every day. And there's a bunch of these all over the place. And anyway, and then the tech element is Microsoft came in and reached out to these guys and offered to kind of create this anonymous thing where they can kind of filter it automatically without somebody actually sitting there and having to do that.
Yeah, and then some of these, by the way, that picture is in Jakarta. That's Interceptor 001. It looks like it's their first unit. It looks like it has solar panels on top.
Yeah.
They can take some of these items and actually repurpose them.
Yes.
So turn them into, I know Adidas does a ton turning bottles from the ocean into sneakers, the Parley stuff.
Yeah, they have to be accountable for everything that they take out. They can't just throw it into a garbage dump. They have to somehow repurpose it. So
the Interceptor, that looks cool. That's a cool name too. Mm-hmm. Interceptor. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want to be intercepted by that, but
yeah, it's pretty cool. And they have these big yacht size ones out in the ocean that are actually being fueled by the plastic that they're picking up.
Just throw it back in there.
Yeah, and it's moving these ships throughout the ocean.
I mean, you try to imagine engineering something like that also wouldn't be doing damage to the environmental situation. It's scraping along. You imagine fish and crabs and whatever else as it's grabbing. It would be really hard to figure out how you get your fins and whatnot in there to avoid picking up the animal life. I mean, I'm sure they've done it.
Yeah,
I'm sure they figured out what kind of system. You see the conveyor going up that it can attack certain items and not others.
Yeah, exactly. And I think doing this at the mouth of these rivers before it gets into the ocean is key, where you're not kind of, intermingling with all this ocean creatures and stuff. You're kind of getting it at its source before it gets out there. And a lot of this stuff is close to the surface too. It doesn't sit on the ocean floor. But yeah, it's crazy.
11,000 pounds of debris in a day.
Yeah.
More than 11,000 pounds of
And
debris
that's
in a
just
day.
one ship?
A single interceptor. Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
The future.
It's a ray of light in a otherwise kind of dim reality that is.
So now that we got these, we can get our straws back, right, Jack?
That's right. Well, if you watch the documentary, they actually go into that and talk about how the whole straws thing was kind of this facade for covering up the reality of what's really going on. And
do you want to add more to that? What do you mean?
Well, they just created it was kind of like back in the day when all these big companies put the onus on people to recycle. Remember, like back in the 80s and 90s, there was the reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that was a way of putting the responsibility on the consumer to
Correct.
And really it just allowed these big companies to keep producing all this plastic and all this, non-combustible stuff. So that's kind of the same story with the straws, where they kind of created the story that the straws, because there was that one picture of that turtle. Yes. And it kind of, that hit the heartstrings of everybody, and that's how you get people's attention. So, but the reality is that's the least of everyone's problems. And,
it's a very small percentage.
Yeah.
Of straws in the ocean.
So, and the real issue is like the commercial fishing and stuff like that. Because that, speaking of like scraping the bottom of the floor, they were saying that 1 out of every 6 fish that they kind of scrape up in these massive nets end up actually being used as human consumption. The rest of them aren't being sold anywhere, so they just end up dying or being thrown away. So they're just really purging our oceans of all of its wildlife. And
just discarding the plastic nets
exactly
into the ocean.
And they were saying that's one of the biggest contributors of plastic in the ocean is these commercial fishing nets.
Because the net itself gets discarded in there?
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Discarding them. And they're massive. They're just massive.
All right. Well, I'm going to go cry now. So thanks for that, Jack.
Yeah, no problem, guys.
All right.
All right.